Welcome, everybody. This is the online meetup. It's a study group about this book, this wonderful book called Overcoming Emotional Chaos by the Heart Math Institute here from California, from Santa Cruz. And we are talking about emotions and how to manage our emotions and a little bit about who we are. We are just a group here in San Francisco, California, and we have friends all over the world that come and join us on our meetups. And in this one particularly, we are interested in our emotions and how to get more familiar with our emotions. So we're just a bunch of people, like regular people in the world, that wants to know more about our feelings and how things works inside us. Anyway, you are welcome to come and share with us your thoughts and your experiences. And if you want to participate, let me know. Leave us a message. So today on the Overcoming Emotional Chaos, we are going to talk about the chapter 2, which is Overcare, over identity, and over attachment. How to overcome the draining cycle. There is a beautiful quote, which is an ancient Chinese proverb that says in the beginning of this chapter, that goes, that birds of worry and care fly over your head. This you cannot change, but that they build nests in your hair, this you can prevent. So taking from there, let's talk about what this chapter wants to teach us. So in the beginning, here, the researcher says that it's in our nature, in our DNA, it's programmed in our DNA, the care, to care for others, ourselves, the care in general. And a philosopher, Martin Heidegger, put it this way: the essence of love is caring. The essence of love is caring. This is beautiful. Let's talk about this. So let's give some examples of care in our lives. Basically, the love and the care we have towards the family, our friends, our spouses, child, right? A love that a mother cares for her child, and how she takes care of her child, or how he takes care of his child, a father, right? So this care generates a sense of security and connection, a life-affirming bond. We all know that, right? But surprisingly, if we take a look at the dictionary, here the book says we don't get a very good grasp or idea about the definition of this word. It says that in a Webster dictionary, we find a definition that it's a trouble or a burdened state of mind, worry, concern. So it takes several lines before it gets around the defining care as to feel love for, to look after, to provide for, attend to. So the language is a reflection of our human perception. And for many in our society, care has become what we call overcare. Let's get an example of this. I look this way because I'm looking at another participant that is right here hiding behind the camera. Juan. So the example that the book brings to us is the example of a favorite dessert, a great dessert. So we already heard of the phrase, too much of a good thing. So an example of this is when you have in front of you this great dessert or your favorite dessert, and you feel like eating the whole piece, and then you want another one and another one, this very rich dessert. It's so irresistible, and you eat it so fast. It's so delicious. You can't help having another piece. And when it was good going down and hits our stomach, and we feel overfull and maybe bloated, nauseous. And if someone offers another piece, you go like, no, no way, I don't want this anymore. I had enough. Well, is the same thing can happen with care. Can you think about this example and put in your life? Like you're thinking that care, but care is love. How can love be too much? Can can really be such a thing as too much love, too much nurturing, or too much care? That's the question for us. And the answer, unfortunately, is yes. And we get over identified or over attached or to what we care about. Like we previously talked in a previous chapter. Go ahead, Hua.
Yeah, I can hear some voices now saying, no, 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 you're wrong. There's not such a thing as too much love. Love is so um, rich, so good, so fulfilling, then it's just not possible that we can say too much love is not a good thing. Um, so for those who are saying that now, I want to maybe um, reframe the example and not look at it from the perspective of that dessert that it was really good, but we overate the dessert because we clearly feel bad after that. But the fact that sometimes I may throw too much love into somebody or into something, whether it's a project or anything else, it means that I'm not throwing that energy and that attention and that love into other things that do need it, including myself. So it's not, sometimes with love, it's not so much a question of you're throwing too much, but by throwing too much into somebody or something, you are um, you're lacking attention and lacking love that you have to be devoting. And as I say, oftentimes it begins with oneself. It begins with myself.
So you were saying that you can create an imbalance,
Yes.
an overflow of feelings, of emotion in one side, and because of that, it is obvious that you're gonna lack on other things.
Yes. So
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that idea of balance, it's really important. But end of the day, it is the same thing as the with the example of the cheesecake, or I don't know what kind of cake it was, but because it's not gonna make us feel good, it's gonna make us feel bad. But
it's too much.
But you know, I just wanted to reframe it because I can hear some voices saying
it is always good to think it, put the same story in different situations so we can think from different perspectives. So what overcare does? So overcare causes guilt or anger. When we overcare about others, they feel overwhelmed and push us away. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Maybe we can, with so much care, masked when it's disguised.
Yeah.
And then we can suffocate someone.
And I, again, it begins with me. I feel, sometimes I feel overwhelmed or over pushed by somebody who really wants to do something for me. Maybe I didn't ask for. Maybe
It's all the time trying to figure out how to care for you, or
yeah, and sometimes that,
finish things for you, or
yeah, if that happens, it's undermining my ability to care, because that part of the care that I have to provide, that I want to provide, that I need to provide, is being fulfilled by somebody else who is
Right.
overcaring. So it's
yeah,
undermining
limiting
my own,
your freedom.
yes, to
to
care, which is paradoxical,
Yes.
but it happens. And I was thinking that, so the book is saying, and you were commenting that we are programmed to care, and thankfully we are programmed to care, and we see that it is an instinct, and it it happens with the dear people we share life with, and it happens with random people. We can be, all of us can be Samaritans, and have that care, will to care, even if we don't know the other person. Um, and that's amazing. That's fantastic. Then it may happen that we experience care, and even as a child, when we're not really aware of what things mean, we just feel things. And so I want to take the example of a child who does not really know why things are the way they are. It just experiences and feels. And the child feels that, when he does something, um, that means, um, that has a meaning for somebody, he probably gets something in return. So if he smiles, or
Right.
does a small trick,
Right.
Whatever that means, connection and care for somebody, for an adult,
You get a reward.
he's getting that reward. So at some point, we develop this sense and this idea,
Right.
that we get a reward for care, and that's fine. Then we go a step further, and we may treat care as a currency, and
Right.
because we experienced it that way.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that a little bit. I mean, if we have a chance to cover the whole chapter today, because I don't know, it's a huge chapter, but it's in here also. But this is a very good point.
I'll come back.
And we're gonna talk about this a little bit more. So the example here I have is that one of the authors of this book says that one day that he was looking in at his own life, and he recognized that he was that reality was so true for him, the overcare reality. So the more he cared for family, friends, work, or issues, the more worried, and he felt worry and anxiety, anxious and worried, and about all those things. And what he cared most about kept giving him the most stress. Do you identify this in your world of emotions? Few things. Can you think about a few things? I'm thinking now. few things in our lives that we care about that cause stress and worry. And why is that? It's love. It shouldn't be this way. If we care, how come we feel stressed caring about something that we care? So if we identify this feeling, this emotion, then we need to get familiar with the situation, bring it to the light. So most of the time when people they get anxious, angry, overreactive, or manipulative, they are caring about something, but in a draining and usually ineffective way, says Dr. Children. So he saw that his own problems started with care. But when the mind would take that care and turn it into worry and stress, how do we go from care to worry and stress? That's what we need to get more familiar with. So he used the term overcare to describe the kind of care that creates stress, overload, overwhelm, going overboard. So all these terms means too much to the point of undoing or downfall. So that's overcare. So of course this feeling, this emotion, it's as old as history and causes endless misery for all of us. So it affects all of us, men and women. So overcare, the book says that overcare occurs when the mind turns our genuinely caring intentions into a mental and emotional drain. So that's overcare. I think if you were listening to this, you were thinking, well, then the genuine care will not cause all this overwhelm, stress, worry, right? We will get there. So the draining cycle, so when it starts, so the draining cycle begins as we over identify with a situation, an issue, or a person we care about. Which means, what do you understand by that? So you care about something or about a person, but you lose your own identity. So you over identify, you become that thing. Let's say you love a car, a beautiful car. There's nothing wrong with that. You care about that car. You take good care of that car. But then if you become that car, if something happens to that car, it will happen to you because you are that car. So you over identify yourself with that person, with that thing. So there is no limits. Everything became one. You and that thing or your job or a person. It is important. Yes, it is. But the overcare started when you and that other party became one. So the limits, the limitations, and the control and the confidence, everything on us, we have limitations. Imagine if you are identified with something outside yourself. How can you manage that which is outside of yourself? You see where it starts, where it gets complicated.
Yeah, and it gets complicated because it's usually not just one step, but
Right,
a number of small steps.
right,
And so we can't really identify where the border is,
right.
where
There's a fine line.
genuine care ends and overcare starts.
Yes.
There's like a gray area there that we can move in and out, or maybe we won't go from one to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I found out that it was useful to set up mental alarms that trigger when I stepped into that gray area. So maybe I'm not on overcare yet, but there's certain things that um, indicate that I
Right.
may go there. So I set those alarms for myself to simply to be aware, as you said before, to bring it to the light.
Right. It's a good start.
Be aware of it.
Yeah.
And then from there.
It's a great start. Yeah. We begin to overcare and want to see things go a certain way. So, for example, let's take the example of the car. If I start to overcare the car, I want absolutely nothing to happen with that car. So it has to go my way. The car needs to be beautiful, clean, shining all the time. Absolutely nothing can happen. So it has to go in my terms. That it needs to go in that way. So we get over attached to how we want things to turn out. So I want this car to always be clean and perfect and beautiful and shiny. And we are unable to see other options. So this car cannot be ever dirty, unclean,
so if I use
or hit by another car.
If I use your car one day and I have a really great time, but I leave because I'm running late. I leave a couple of
It's going away from my terms. Like
yeah.
It's not gonna happen the way I want, so I'm gonna suffer.
We're gonna have a problem.
Because I'm gonna suffer because I overcare about that car. It has to go my way. It's overcare. So there is, in my mind, there is no possibility that this is a car, this is a machine, that something could happen to that machine. That's out of my control. Another person can make a mistake and hit that car. So for someone that over cares about something, this is not an option. Someone hit my car, it's not an option.
Even worse, you could hit your car.
Yes, that's not an option. Exactly. You're not even talking about, oh, something could happen to somebody else. No, just the car. So if something happens to that car, other than what I think exactly and made the rules about that car, I'm gonna suffer. So this is a simple example, but it's easy to relate to, right? So we are less able to let go of that issue, that situation, or that person. So if I am not able to let go of that car, if I'm not able, that's a good sign of overcaring. I overcare about this car. Cannot let go. I have to be on control, on top of it. I need to know everything, what's going on with this car. And all the time I'm looking at the car, I'm looking at my window, if everything is okay with that car. I'm always thinking about the car. I'm gonna leave this car here. If something can happen to this car. No, I'm not gonna visit my friend because my friend lives in a not very safe neighborhood, and I'm not gonna leave that car over there. Something can happen to that car. So I can't let go. That's a good sign of overcare. Let's keep going. So the book is wonderful. This chapter is incredible. So this is ironically exactly the opposite. What we want, it usually happens as results. Because there are other options and we cannot control. Simple as that. If we are in this world, there are so many things that could happen, right? How can we control that? If we don't know to let go and we overcare about everything, we are going to suffer. So instead of get promoted about a relationship, we get fired. That's the analogy that the book gives. I thought it was very interesting. We get fired instead of promoted. So a relationship that has overcare as its basis, instead of get promoted, instead of building this wonderful relationship, in giving fruits of this relationship, creating other uh, happy situations or options, we will get fired. So we will go, actually, it gives us stress and worry, right? So, and when something happens, we are like, but I cared so much. How could that happen? That's not possible, right? So, and the book says that this self-destructive cycle is gradual. That's scary. That's very scary. So the self-destructive cycle is insidious. So over identity, over care, and over attachment spill into and feed each other. They can quickly spread to others and infect an entire family or workplace like an emotional virus. So it gives an example here. Excuse me. And then we can find our own examples, but let's take the book's example. So it talks about someone that heard something during lunch and then got back to work and start overreacting and overthinking about what she heard and tells another coworker. The other coworker that didn't hear what the coworker heard start to get defensive and emotional about that problem, and already started to create a plan how would react if that happened, if he said that I would do this, and became angry, anxious, and created all this emotional chaos inside him. And then what happened the next day? It was a rumor that the first person heard from someone else at lunch. So this kind of things, they happen every day. And this is an energy spent and waste. Just wasting and spending energy with something that it's not even true. So the question for us is, how often do we become a victim of our own and others' emotional chaos? How often someone call us and say, you know what? This that person said that will do this, this, and that. And then before you even ask any questions and try to learn if this is true or not, you become all fired up and you are already getting defensive and creating an emotional chaos inside yourself. How often do we do that to ourselves? How often we hear something, we see something, and we make a poor judgment and we create a chaos. Hmm? So when we look at the world situation through the eyes of over identity and over care, we quickly take sides, right? Based on partial information. This is the cause of emotional chaos. This is what's behind the growing epidemic of anxiety, depression, hypertension, and stress. That this is what's behind most divorce, conflicts, riots, and war, right? And here in the book, they say whole countries build their belief systems and over identities, over cares, and over attachments. The result is a blind refusal to understand another's point of view, leading to a non-negotiation, suicide bombing, and terrorism. So if we are not willing to let go of our over identities, my country, my team, my company, my, all this over identity, that we become one with what we care about. And if we are not open to to see a bigger picture, there is no possible solution, because we see only from our perspective and our way. And this is a very rigid way to see the world. If you want to interrupt me, go ahead, okay? If we go this way, the strongest will always dominate by manipulation or force, but won't resolve the underlying misunderstandings. Why is that? Because there are a lot of things underneath a story, a culture, a person. We are all a universe in each person. We have different experiences, we have different backgrounds, especially in this country here in the US. We have so many immigrants. So in on the other hand, it's a beautiful opportunity we have here to learn and see different backgrounds and different beliefs and understanding of how people see the world. I think it's a beautiful opportunity. But for a lot of people that see life from one single perspective, is this flexible sounds to you? What it sounds? Sounds flexible or sounds more like rigid, more like stiff? Like,
Sounds stiff.
yeah, rigid.
But it is it's really difficult because we tend to take things personally,
Sure.
and then when we do that, we tend to judge and take sides.
Sure.
And once we have judged, then we're not listening anymore. We're not seeing all the colors. We're just seeing red or blue or whichever color we want to see. And then there are many exercises on even on YouTube on how this works, how perception works, how it tricks our mind into seeing only what we're expecting to see. So if part of the story is not what we expect, we will simply ignore it, even if we listen to it loud and clear. We'll ignore it, and it's not even conscious most of the time. It's
Yes.
unconscious, and that, even though when I say it like that, it seems like really weird and really difficult. Like, how are you going to ignore something that is being told to you? But it does happen, and it happens often because not only we took sides and we judged and we only see one color,
Yes.
but we hit it. We are emotional. We are over-identified. We are over-attached. We are. We became that part of the story that we are identifying with, and
Yes.
and those two things mixed, it makes it impossible to
Yes. To see other options.
mhm.
So what you're saying is so important, because when we don't manage all that what you said, if we don't manage that in our lives, if we don't manage the way that we over identify, over care, or over attachment, they become a habit. So our vision becomes very strict and narrow
And it's
of
really
everything.
and it's really easy to get there.
Easy, very easy.
Uh,
Imagine you doing the same thing every day for years and years and years, and you'd never ever ask yourself or question yourself for your emotions, or you're not in touch with our emotions. And we're emotional beings. We have emotions all the time,
um,
or we deny all of them.
I'm thinking, as an example, um, the recent deaths we've known of citizens in the hands of police. So it's really easy to think,
to see this, yes,
to see just one side. So
yes,
if we're used to um, being on the side that is maybe harassed by police sometimes, or um, overchecked, or we we see clearly that it's a murder. Um, I was doing nothing, or somebody I know or somebody I see on YouTube is doing nothing bad, nothing wrong, nothing that justifies being
right,
shot, and
right,
and shot.
yeah,
And then
overreaction.
if we are police, we maybe we live in fear,
Yes,
because the world is really dangerous out there.
yeah,
Some people do want to harm the police, and they may find themselves in really tough situations, life-threatening situations, more often than not. So they they develop this fear and this over um, protection for themselves. So you can look at it from both sides, and identify with any of them, and think that maybe any of them is right. And I'm not saying that the situation is right or wrong in one way or the other. It probably, and I believe it does. Um, End of the day, we can say this should be or should not be done like this. What I mean is, to get there, to get to that point where we can all agree that we can change reality so that that does not happen again.
Mm-hmm.
We need to listen, and we need to open our mind and our hearts, and we need to let go of many of the feelings that we that situation has created for us.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we need to manage all this. We need to learn, right? If we are overreacting or if it's just a lack of care or burnout.
mm,
So that's exactly what we're
yeah,
talking about. These things are important in order to create a balance. Because if we if we don't take care of those emotions that you're talking about, that create all sort of uh, reactions, and this will drain our life quality, our energy, in day-to-day experiences.
yeah, and letting go of those emotions in order to be able to create that balance and manage the situation and move forward and change the reality and change the future for the better. Uh, the fact that we're right or wrong, the fact that, um, say, the truth is on our side, it has nothing to do with that. So we can be right,
Right.
and we can still let go, and we
Right.
can still move
Exactly.
on, and we can
Sure.
still do many things.
Yeah.
There's we
So,
don't doing that, moving in that direction does not mean that we are that we're saying we're losing our own credibility or our own truth. We don't have to put our truth aside to do that. And
right.
that's where it gets really complicated, because we
Yes.
feel that if we do that, if we move, if we get closer to the person we have the conflict with, um, we're losing something. We're giving away. We're um,
Right. Right.
and
That's the usual understanding.
mhm.
I
And it's not
understand.
the case.
Yes. The the book says that when emotional quality is low, we mechanically operate at half mast. The half mast is when the um I forgot the name, bandera. Oh, sorry.
Flat.
When the flag, thank you. When the flag is halfway, you know? So when emotional quality is low, we mechanically operate at half mast. Our peace, fun, and power to adapt are significantly reduced. We stay so stressed that we end up feeling ineffective, or that we have cared too much and can't care anymore. Burned out, right? Super stressed. So we often think that overcare will somehow make things better, that all the energy we put into worrying will give us the answers as we need, and or achieve the outcomes we want. So we think if we give an overcare, let's talk about the car again. So if I overcare about this car, nothing is gonna happen. So I will live uh, happy forever with this car, right? That's what we think, because I'm putting a lot of energy, a lot of care. I'm making this car very clean and shining every day, so it looks beautiful every day. I park it with care and love, and uh, always taking care of it. So it will it will give me all the happiness and the peace I want, or I want to achieve, right? So we think that very loud. That was loud. It's okay. So, sorry about that. So, we think that worry and anxiety somehow motivate productive action. So, we think that when we overcare and we have this momentum, and then, wow, this is care, this is love, and this will create action. Actually, no, that's not a good manage of emotion. You're not managing your emotions well. Right? So, it's when we finally let the worry go. So we understand we care about something, but we will do our best to take care of that. And we will not worry about it. We will be happy about the presence of that thing or that job or that person in our life. So we decide to think about it or talk to a friend, right, that who can help us to release the worry, and then the answers will start to come. So basically, you care about something, but you feel that something starts to mm, make you worry about, concern, and then you talk talk about it with someone, or maybe meditate about it. But the best way is to talk about it, right? Because energized emotional involvement and passion toward a goal is different from worry. You see, when you are passionate about something, you're happy about something, you are emotionally involved with something, it creates energy. You don't feel overwhelmed or burned out or sad or frustrated. You feel happy when you do that. When you do something, you feel energized. It's a good vibe, it's a good energy. It's not a stress. It's not a negative emotion. It's a positive one. It it opens your mind to possibilities. But over identify, over identity and emotionalism close the mind, the book says, and can delay accomplishment of a goal and spoil its celebration. Because you're trying to control, you're trying to possess that, because it's over identified with yourself. So you have fear of losing, of something is going to happen not the way I want. So it creates a different vibe. Do you see? Can you tell the difference? Can you think about an experience in your life? And the book gives a good example, a balloon, the balloon example. So it's like squeezing a balloon at one side, at one end, so that it pops out on the other end. And this is a lack of balance, a lack of care. You know, when you have a balloon and you squeeze it, and it's causing a lot of stress from one side, burnout, and then on the other side, it's not very well balanced. So that's what we see in the society today. Many sides are very stressed, and others with a lack of so many things. So just a little news, but go ahead, you say.
So I see um, an example of that is when there's a group of people who all share the same goal, they all want the same thing, and they all have different ways of reaching that. Uh, if if they truly care about that goal, they most likely they are going to cooperate and find ways
Interesting.
of um, taking the best from everybody to get to that goal. If there is an overcare or an over identification of some or all of the members of the group, then only one of them will prevail and will get his or her way. And what happens to the rest is that they invest so much into fighting. Although they're all of them are pursuing the same goal, they have to fight because they have different ways of
Right.
getting there.
Right.
So they fight, they get burned, and then they didn't, when the goal is reached, but it is not reached their way, or you're going there, you're on the way, but it's not being done your way, you get discouraged, and you quit. So the the end result is that first you end up being stressed, and then when you can't go on anymore, instead of recycling and instead of trying to change and accept and let go and even help towards the goal, which was your goal in the first place, you forget about that and you quit. And you say, I don't want to have anything to do with this anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like that example. It's a good one. It's a
And,
good one because that's, if you take that and you put in the society that we are right now, it's a very good example.
yeah. And what you're saying is interesting because I think although we're nowhere near finishing this chapter, which is really, really good,
Right. And we're gonna finish
we
into it right now.
we're kind of closing the circle on what we said today, the way we started today, because we started with the question: is there such a thing as too much love? And we said um, there is, or at least there is the fact that if you're putting too much into something, you're not putting enough into yourself or something else that you should. But you were kind of letting us see what we can clearly see now, and what you're saying, that how is that going to make us feel? How is um, true care and balanced care going to make us feel?
Right.
And how is overcare going to make us feel?
Right.
So that's how we identify too much love,
Right.
because it's not going to make us feel good. And love is supposed to make us feel
Right.
good.
Right. Right. Right.
So we kind of close the circle with that.
Right. Yeah, we're not gonna close yet because the next week we're gonna be talking more about that because we need to uncover the masks. There are four masks that the book talks about. There are disguised by love and care, but it's something else. It's over care. It's over identity. We're gonna be talking about that. So I'm gonna close the our talk today with this report that the book talks about, the Mitchum report on stress in the 90s, shows that money, work, and family are constant sources of overcare and stress for most people in the US. More than half worry about work or money, and a quarter say conflict between work and family is the greatest source of tension and stress. So, small incidents like being late for an appointment, waiting in traffic, or standing in line at a store also cause worries and stress. And in fact, it's often the smallest things that cause the biggest stress, right? Uh, we can relate to that a lot, right, in our lives. Well, we'll finish here, and we invite you to be with us next week, and you can come and you can participate. You leave us a message, and we will let you know how to be here on air with us. This meetup goes on air every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time. And we hope you have a great rest of the week. We will see you next week. Bye.